Hello, you are welcome to Rabbi class. This is coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria. This is not in any way a Jewish-oriented arrangement or initiative, as it may have sounded to you, but a live streaming midweek church service with an interactive session that can graduate to a debate kind of symposium which will accommodate even rival religious sects over time. This is meant to bring or provide answers to your unanswered questions and to prove ultimately the authenticity of the Holy Scriptures. Prophecies of prophets penned down over the ages, proving that whole body of work to other religious sects of this world as true. Why Rabbi class, you may ask? Because it might not be a nursery class to those of you who are still kids in Bible studies, because of its in-depth, far-reaching, and spiritual nature. It is bone-cracking, it is meat-busting, it is truly rabbinical. Well, I will counsel you not to miss the episodes as they are epochal, versatile, and seriously eye-opening. And in today's edition or segment, in today's live broadcast or live streaming, I will discuss something with you that's supposed to help you again groom your growth as we continue to embark on this race to the heaven where we have our eternal citizenship. Just a moment ago, Prophet prayed this way. He said, who would have revealed to me that to worship a God due to the fear of being thrown into hell or fear of burning in a certain lake of fire forever is a violation of the freedom of choice that every free moral agent is supposed to have. Is a violation of the freedom of choice that every free moral agent is supposed to have, and is directly or indirectly a brutish command, a barbaric command, subliminally suggesting that the God must be worshipped by all, irrespective of your choice or of their choices. Irrespective of their choices. What does this mean? For instance, it means that to worship the God Almighty, prophet is saying that to worship the God Almighty actually is not what's supposed to be forced on any. In fact, when you worship the God by force, it is not even a worship at all. You are not actually worshiping the God Almighty if you know exactly what worship means. Now, prophet is bringing out something else. He said that there is just like in the earth here, for instance, we have what we call human rights. Human rights. You see, now that there is such thing as the very freedom of choice that every free moral agent supposed to have, that belongs to every free moral agent. That is to say, the angels, they are free moral agents. They have they have their, that is, they are not robotic. They are free moral agents. They have the right to choose. You know, that is also how it is. Where the cherubim and seraphim are, they are free moral agents. These are free moral agents, and they have their different heavens worlds. Prophet has explained this before now. And then that they worship the God of, I mean, in the earth, if you observe, you see that there are places that they refer to as highly civilized. Highly civilized, and that one thing that is supposed to be paramount there is their respect to human rights, their respect to that's how that people must be able to express themselves and make their choices, something like that, and not to be forced to one thing or the other. You see, so prophet, okay, for instance, look at what Nebuchadnezzar tried doing at the time, and there was that fiery furnace. There was that thing. Look at that. Certain fiery furnace. And then he said, anyone that refused to bow his head or forehead to the ground as a form of worship, as an act of worship, to a particular image, as was written, this is what will be meted out to that the person or persons will be cast into the very fire in question. Look at that. And look at the summary of what they explained to you that the God of creation did. As there is this place referred to as hell, there is also this other place referred to as the lake of fire. And then on a nutshell, that the people who did not obey God's commandment, the people who did not, in fact, keep God's commandment, all something like that. That was, now let's say that before the time that Jesus Christ came, I mean through the womb of Virgin Mary, it was like there are 10 commandments and some other ones anyway that were not exactly that might have been represented in the 10 commandments but were not written out, written on the tablet stone. But the way they made us see it was that the 10 commandments must be obeyed, like 1 to 10, and that if you are able to keep 9 and then fail 1, you are guilty of all. They made the God of Moses or the God of the law look that way. Meanwhile, he's supposed to be the same God. No, so I have always tried to make us understand certain things. What prophet is saying here is this, that actually when you understand perfectly the message of this God, you will also understand how that the God is truly such a blameless, an immaculate, such a righteous person. That is who he is. He is who he is. That he cannot be affected. That is, he cannot be changed by evil. He cannot be changed because people are this way. As he is who he is. You cannot force him to become who he is not. You cannot violate his nature and so on. He's not violable. His height of holiness is not what can be corrupted. He is who he's not practicing righteousness. His nature is righteous and so on. At times I look for words to explain what I actually intended to explain, to the height that I will feel satisfied. I will feel I have been able to communicate to everyone, no matter the person's level of education. No, so what I'm trying to say is this, that when you look at how that there is such thing as rights, my right to this, my right to this, there are human rights. Then also you look at the fact that animals are different from human beings. You see, it is not disputable. The evidence is here in the earth here. That means there is a way you don't treat a human being. That if you do treat a human being, then you are treating the human being like you are treating an animal. That's what that whole human right stuff is all about. That the person is someone who is a free moral agent by nature. He is a free moral agent. In other words, he has the ability to know what is good and what is not good when he has grown to a certain point. So there are things that if he does it, you can hold him responsible for doing it. You see, just like animals, you wouldn't. An animal can do a terrible thing. If no matter how you intended to maybe deal with the animal, does not mean you be asking the animal, why did you do this or why did you do that, and expect the animal to explain to you explain to you, answer you. So there are robotic creatures, there are free moral agents. Prophet has said this before now, even though this is that kind that you will not see written out plainly in any way in the Bible. So that angels are free moral agents. The cherubim and seraphim are free moral agents. Some people thought that, like has this mindset that angels are, even though they may not go in the angle of free moral agents or not, but rather what they do suggests that they think that they are slaves, that angels are slaves. in the aspect of they are there to do what either the God is saying, or what if you are in a position in authority. That is, if God placed you in the position of authority where you can, demonstrate one one power or the other, where you can command and so on, so that they are there. You tell them go, they go. You tell them come, they come. Stop, they stop. That's it. Then prophet is telling us no, that the angels are free moral, like as free moral agents as we are, as free moral agents as we humans are, and that they have their heaven's words. They are citizens of a planet or planets, and that heaven is actually a physical realm. That just like we have natural laws here, there is the supernatural laws. Just like we have biology, physics, and chemistry, there is the supernatural biology, physics, and chemistry. Just like life here has limited lifespan, has limits. Things here, they spoil, they fade, they die, and so on. In heaven, there is there is everlasting life system. So that is not just what Jesus promised was saying, like that we should think. It has to do with after death. After death, that spirit being lives forever. So that it was seriously gotten wrong. And that was also why there is resurrection. And resurrection, particularly, is to help you understand not about the spirit being, but about the physical body that died and must have even like become pieces. That there is the standing up again of that physical body, but then that physical body will not be brought back to life mortal. So that there is a supernatural, and Jesus promised at a point, like when he resurrected, that was one of the main reasons he has to also show himself to a people. And that he showed himself truly to especially people he's been teaching. And that one of the things he said at the time is, touch me. I am not a ghost. A ghost has not physical body or flesh and bone like they wrote, as you see me have. Because of that same lack of the knowledge of these supernatural physical objects, they wrote flesh and bones. If they had understood it, they would have been able to understand then that there should be need then to look into that physical body that cannot die, that will live forever, that remains ageless. What about the systems in that physical body? Like we have digestive systems, our digestive system here, circulatory system, respiratory system, and so on. Excretory system, cardiovascular system, name them. So what about that physical body then that will not, that cannot, that is immortal physical body? What about that? All of this would have helped us to understand also then that there is the spirit being that is the very person, aside the very physical body. It was why, in the first place, the death of the physical body will not mean the death of the spirit being, but rather the ejecting of the spirit being in the soul, the ejecting of that spirit being out of the physical body. Which, when it happens, the spirit being in the soul becomes a ghost, ghost. So there are such things as ghosts, or that there is such thing as the word ghost. It is not It's not what to believe or what not to believe. It is real. The spirit being is the person, and that spirit being programmed in the soul was immersed into a physical body for the person to be able to be in a world like this, in an earth like this. You see, and that word immersed into is what will also help you to know the reason for words like baptism in Christendom. Baptism is a heavyweight word. If you like, it's fundamental. It is amongst those things that I call a must understand. It is foundational. It is fundamental. Not understanding it, there are things you will never understand perfectly. If you delve into your explanations will be rubbish. So you must understand the origin of it. Why that? to now understand, that's the reason you need to be immersed into water and brought out. Like for it to make sense to you, why will I be immersed into water and brought out in the first place? And also, if I didn't do it, what do I stand to lose? If I have done it and done it well, what am I gaining? These things are those kind of knowledge that Jesus was also referred to when he said, "You shall know the truth, and that truth shall set you free." There are things that until you know it, you will not, you will not seriously pursue something. You will not, that is, you will not take certain things seriously, like what is called salvation. Why? Because there are things you have not yet understood very well. So you even when you go to church, you will not know that you have not yet made it priority. That there is what when it show, if it should show up, if that thing and the church that they stand like facing you like this, you shift the church and choose that one. It is how it is. So because of that, there are things you really, really need to understand. You need to understand the message of salvation, what it is. When are you salvaged? What are you being salvaged from? And a whole lot. So the Bible actually is such a book in the earth, but it has a whole lot of what was written in it being misinterpreted. That is just what is the issue with the Bible that we have today. A whole lot was misinterpreted. And that is the reason for the word restitution of all things that was spoken concerning in 2 Thessalonians. It was the reason for the word shall restore all things, referring to, that's Jesus was talking, referring to Elijah. Say, yes, Elias shall come again and shall restore all things. If your preachers out there is genuine, these are the kind that would have made them, for instance, begin to pray towards. But we want to understand what does that mean, because it was written clearly. Jesus Christ promised, also himself wrote it. I mean, said it. Said, yes, Elijah will come again and shall restore all things. How will you explain it? How will you explain? How did that preachers out there accommodate it in those things that I have explained to you? In terms of you being born again, their explanation of what it is. What is that Elijah coming to restore? When they are telling you to expect rapture, when they are telling you, as in those things I explained to you, where has it accommodated that word? Elias shall come again and shall restore all things. Okay, look at the one also that prophet Malachi said in Malachi 4. And it was written also again there. And what was that? That Elijah will come again. Then mention words like that he will turn the hearts of the children to their, like turn their heart back to their fathers, and that of the fathers to their children, and so on. What was that? It doesn't matter. This is Malachi. I spoke about now. It is after Malachi you now get Matthew. And Jesus is promised that that Matthew I spoke about now saw. He saw him one-on-one. The very Jesus also spoke again and said, yes, Elias. That means it was a question asked him. They say, yes, Elias. First of all, he said, Elias have come. And they've done what they intended to do to him. And they still interpreted there that the way he spoke, the people understood that he was referring to John the Baptist. Which was, in other words, that was after John the Baptist's arrest. So they understood that, oh, John must have been like executed, kind of, or beheaded, like they wrote that he was beheaded. And these are also matters you should not just look away, because it can make you someday ask, but wait, why will John the Baptist suffer that when Jesus Christ was physically in the earth? One, being he was arrested. Two, he was beheaded. Like somebody who has no biological father at that time in the earth, has no biological mother at that time in the earth, has no biological brothers or sisters, or brother or sister in the earth. Who will even mourn him? For like if I should talk about, like people like doing that thing that one's loved ones supposed to do. Who will even do that? When you talk about, like, when someone goes to where goes go to, they refer to a certain people as people that have become bereaved of the person. Who are the people that would have cried, say, oh John, John has been killed, if I put it that way. And then Jesus Christ was there in the earth, physically present. Then the people that were formerly, many of John's, the very John's disciples, or the people that were around him, you know, for one reason, that were around him to be taught by him. And so many of them left him and followed Jesus Christ's promise. And then John also at a certain point was even telling them that this person is that is the like the big deal now. You know, that he is bound to hit the rock bottom. Will, like they wrote it, like he will not progress anymore, something like that. So in other words, it was now you cannot be around somebody and the person was was telling you this is the big deal now. Try to just be careful with words. I really want you to catch this, and then you still remain with that person. In other words, the person is telling you this, like you can now follow this person. This is the most recent. This is the one with the message. This is that, and so on. Then the prophet also has explained it. Why such? Because there are things that points fingers to somebody or somebody's personality. If you think it didn't concern you, there is what, when it starts happening to you, then you begin to question those. You begin to say, oh, no wonder this happened to this person. Maybe God is actually selfish. Maybe God doesn't actually matter. I mean, doesn't actually care for whoever. All he cares is what he wants to get. Maybe God is actually like, like when, if he's sending anybody, that person is just like an envelope. So what is inside? Once that thing that is inside reaches the one the envelope was sent to, the person can even tear the envelope. It doesn't matter. Look at that now. Okay, look at Virgin Mary. Look at Virgin Mary. Even if he went to where go, like they say, die, look for where it is in the Bible you have now. Okay, let me not go too far. Look at Moses, the very Moses, his children. Moses, the author, like they wrote, or they said, of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and Numbers. Look for his children. I mean, his children. What become of his children? Or what became of his children? What happened to Moses' children? Rather, they spoke about Aaron and the lineage, blood lineage of Aaron. What about Moses' children? He had his wives, not even wives, and children. What about them? Then your Bible even said that the very Moses died on the mountain of Nebo or Moab, and also said that God was the one who was the architect of it. That God told him, this is where you will die, and told him the reason why he will die there. And yet the God is at a point, they wrote about forgiveness, like that Jesus, his promise said, even in fact, if your enemy slaps you on this cheek, you turn to the other. Then the God Almighty that Jesus promises is an incarnate of, or that is the very God in an incarnate manifestation. That means he should be the highest reflection, highest example of who the God is. He said that. Then look at that character. What has to do with somebody that was, for instance, engaged in, like, was sent to go and get a people, not go and go, not like go and dig a particular place. You will see gold. You will see this and that. I kept it there. That is what you will use. I mean, that was not involved, but it was to, like, he should go to a people, and the place he was sent to happened to be where he committed a certain offense and ran away for his life, something like that. Then the God sent him to go there again, and then the thing also that he was going to do was supposed to be what, to bring him to Pharaoh. That's like bring him to where he used to be, the very palace he used to be, something like that. To now also be telling the very Pharaoh things that can anger the Pharaoh. Look at it. And so on. So he was supposed to go and get the people of that very Egypt. And then also a journey that took like 40 years of his life in a wilderness kind of a place. He was supposed to lead the people to a place. I mean, lead the people from a place to a place. And then it was such an experience in his life in the earth here. As he in both in telling the Pharaoh one thing or the other, it was something that looked also risky, like he was risking his head somehow. But him trusting the God, he was doing it until the point where the people now were like all the people followed him. Then also, you know what happened when they faced the Red Sea. It was not as though he was told before that time. This is what when you are going, you like the Red Sea will part for you. This is, he was not pre-informed about it. He saw the thing, and it was looking like their end. As the very Israelites, I mean the very Egyptians, in fact the very Pharaoh was like that very morning or early hours of that day, there were deaths. Like the very Egyptians, each family like lost their first male child. Imagine what it would have been like, or what it would have looked like, including the very Pharaoh, including the very Pharaoh. And then he has to send the armies of Egypt. You can see that it was now not a very, it was not funny at all. And so they were supposed to go and get that people back or kill them if it was like if they were if they were like fighting back or so, and so on. So take a good look at that. Then when the sea opened, they crossed the sea, yes, closed back, and that people were all drowned. Then another chapter was opened, which was what they were now in the wilderness. The people were not pre-informed that journeying back to a certain place will also take them years. So what I'm trying to say is that aspect that has to do with the God telling Moses, this is for this reason you will see the promised land, but your leg will not step into it. I told you to speak to a certain rock, but rather you hit the rock with your rod 3 times. Therefore, like in fact they even wrote it like you did not glorify God. Like you didn't glorify God by hack that like somebody can actually glorify God. So in the presence of people, while the people were watching, you didn't glorify God. In other words, God was looking for that kind of like what they mean by that glory is they like to take advantage of a spotlight and receive all the accolades. What show that, oh yes, that's me, that's me, that's me, like I can perform miracles. So this was what I said you should do it exactly the way I said it, and then when the water starts coming, they will know, oh, wow, what a God. And that is terrible. It is not at all what even to glorify one means. God is the one who glorify people. We are not the one to glorify God. Besides, there is such thing as glorification in terms of to explain it. That's what is it? What is glorification? Like physical body becoming glorified. What does that mean? All of these are serious things that you need to understand. All of these things are serious things you need to understand. Prophet is saying that the very Moses that they wrote that he died on the mountain of Nebo or Moab, that was a lie. But that was what happened that they didn't write very well. And then the book of Jude said that certain person that he called, in fact, that's an Archangel Michael, was coming for the very body of Moses, and then had a confrontation with Lucifer. So they wrote it that way, like, and then he didn't bring railing accusations and so on to the very person. Like he has to, like acknowledge ranks. Then he said to the very person, the Lord rebuked thee, even the Lord rebuked thee, something like that. Then prophet said that the archangel or the angels are angels, but there is such thing as the hierarchical order of heavenly citizenship, so that the cherubim and seraphim are superior to angels. You see his own explanation. So there's such thing as like the head of the angels are the archangels. The head of the archangels are the seraphim. The head of the seraphim are the cherubim. The head of the cherubim is the woman. The head of the woman is the man. The head of the man is the Christ. As you see now, but then in your Bible, what you just see is the head of the woman. You see, it started from there. Is the man. The head of the man is the Christ. You see, so that there are other heavenly citizens. So lack of that understanding has always affected a whole lot that they wrote, which has also passed through lots of translations, and so on. So, in other words, what I'm saying here is that the very anything that they are explaining in the Bible, and it has to do with these supernatural realities I'm talking about, it has always gone through that, because you must understand that to be able to explain that. You must understand how life is in the supernatural to be able to explain it. Else, you will make a mess of the whole thing, because you will explain it from how life is here in this earth, how life is in the natural. You see? So, prophet said that Jude said that an archangel was coming for the body of Moses, and then had a confrontation. Now, look at it. Then, using your brain, if I put it that way, that means using your sanity, like you are saying, your mental prowess, how that you don't have to keep your brain when you're entering into a church premises outside. So, looking at it now, what would the archangel be coming for the body of Moses for? What will an archangel be coming to the body? That body simply then would have meant dead body. That's what it would have meant, because they said, where the story was told, that he died and was buried. That's what they wrote. And that the children of the very people that he was leading mourned him for 40 days. Now, how did they come about that? Then, when Jesus Christ was in the earth here, that very Moses that they said that he died and was buried, they wrote that he appeared with Elijah on the mountain of Olives. And Jesus Christ took Peter, James, and John to the very place, and saw, that is, took Peter, James, and John to the very mountain of Olives, and then that people appeared, something like that. Why the prophet said it was not just an appearance, because like people do say that ghosts can appear, you see. So it was not just appearance, that these are people that came from somewhere. They have physical bodies. They came from somewhere. So the heaven is real. The heaven is a physical place. And words like that, God is the God of the living and not of the dead, is because of that kind of beliefs. God is the God of the living. Like, that is the living and the dead. So that is actually what they are trying to actually explain there. It's not that God is the God of somebody when he is alive. So the moment the person dies, God is no longer God of that person. Because God was saying that he's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. When Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has died, if I should speak the language of the people, that means it has gone to where ghosts go to. God was still saying it. So if he's the God of the living and not of the dead, why will he be saying, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, when Abraham has already died? And so on. So, which is to say that that's what he was trying to explain, is that God is the God of a place, or a people who are in a place that is physical, who are in a place where death is not in any way reigning. In other words, I'm trying to say that, the people that we call dead, it is actually their physical bodies that died. That they are spirit beings programmed in the soul, were ghosts that were ejected out of the physical body. And I gave an example of that some time ago. I said, like, you see someone crying and crying and telling his loved one or her loved one or their loved one, please hang on, please, like, hang on, like, don't breathe your last, like, continue, like, please don't leave us and go, and so on. Maybe because there was this fatal accident, or maybe because there was one thing like that or the other, like they were driving the person. I remembered even on the television, a certain man, for instance, was like telling his wife, who was pregnant, whom they said was carried to a certain hospital, and the hospital, like, has reasons to refer them to another hospital. Then on their way, the woman was like, behaving like someone who wants to now go to where goes go to, or like they say, who wants to die. Then the man was like, please don't do that to him. Don't die. So prophet said that is then eventually the woman still died, as they say. As they do use that language. I use the language, go to. The person go to where goes to. Or the person eventually went to where ghosts go to. So, but my point is this, that the woman who wanted to stay, this one now is not accident, this one is pregnancy. But then the woman, even in saying, like, yes, I will, at a point, couldn't make it. It is to show you that prophet who had explained to you before now that the mechanism is in the body, not with the spirit being. That means the mechanism to do what? To eject the very spirit being in the soul out of the physical body is with the physical body, not with the spirit being. So when, for instance, somebody is bleeding, let's say just blood going out of the person's body, it can get to a certain point that is like it's like a button. Then the physical body will have no other option than to eject, that is death. I mean, to eject the spirit being in the soul out of the physical body. You see, the same way, just locking somebody's nose when the blood is fine in the person's body, complete, doing well, and then oxygen that the person needs to breathe in and breathe out, carbon dioxide, and then the person's nose was locked for some time, will also happen. You see, so, and all of this is to help you. All of this is to, I'm trying to help you understand what mortality is, mortal nature is. Then you cannot then, like Jesus Christ, resurrect. You cannot resurrect like Jesus Christ was resurrected, and you still are in that same state. That means you still need to be breathing in oxygen and breathing out. Anybody that is breathing in oxygen is someone that can be tortured by things like tear gas. I mean, just things that are because the person is breathing in. The person, what I mean is he can't but breathe in. So the person is still not, he has not gained independence fully. It's independence. I mean, that's such as the interdependency between plants, animals, and humans. So that plants, for instance, they release oxygen. That's in agricultural science now, and breathe in carbon dioxide. Then while humans breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. You see, I'm just doing an example. So how would Jesus, who had resurrected, how would he have continued in that kind of lifestyle, in that kind of life, in that kind of living, where like if that time that the people closed their doors, they shut their doors, he wouldn't like knock and tell them to open so that he will enter. He will do that kind of a thing that if someone should do that, you will say that the person is a ghost. In fact, you call that person that appeared a ghost. Now you say that, and the ghost of such a person appeared to you. And then the person, in the Jesus still was explaining, taking them on a class that has to do with supernatural realities. He said to them, I am not a ghost. And define to you what should help you know or no longer believe certain things they show you, even on TV. He said, a ghost does not have flesh and bone. In other words, a ghost is a spirit being in the soul without a physical body, without a tangible body. And that very person referred to as that ghost was formerly in a physical body. And that physical body died. The death occurred to that physical body. And then the physical body ejected the ghost, but the spirit being is so out. Then that person becomes a ghost. So that person that becomes a ghost then is where? Where would the person be in the earth here? That is where the person will go to. The person doesn't have to know the road to the place. So that is the reason there is ghost world. Else you would have been seeing them. You would have been seeing ghosts. There are laws. So there's a law that will immediately take place and begin to gradually take the person towards that direction. That's why prophet said that it is a backward movement. That is, the thing is not taking the person frontward. The thing is not taking the person like this. So you see, so the thing takes the person gradually backward. Like the person might be going toward the direction without even knowing that it's being absorbed gradually until the person is now far from the people he knows, people he can interact with. What I mean interact here does not mean he speaks to them and they hear. What I mean is, the the place he used to be, if he has children or she has children, or brothers, sisters, and so there's all of that. Gradually, we begin to become distanced from him. So, and besides, Jesus also spoke about how that, for instance, someone was swallowed by a whale, or they wrote that someone was swallowed by a whale. I mean, in the book of Jonah, and the person was still talking in the bellies, in the whale's belly. What does that mean? This is another, which has to do with how that the people that are referred to in death, that Solomon wrote and said that the dead knows not where he is. Jesus also corrected him when he said that there's this Lazarus and the rich man. They said, in death, that they have died. That means after that thing has happened to them in the earth here, as an example. But the very Lazarus was in where he called Abraham's bosom. And then the rich man in hell. And then the rich man said to Abraham, calling him by name, like Father Abraham, please, he should plead with the one. Not he, Father Abraham, not he, Father Abraham, please dip your finger into water and let it drop on my tongue. He would have told Abraham that, but he didn't tell the very Abraham, but told Abraham to tell the person in the bosom of Abraham that it was called Lazarus, to dip his finger into water and let it touch his tongue. And that Abraham said, are you not seeing the gully, the distance between where you are and where the very person you're talking about is? In other words, that Abraham was on the side of that very rich man. That's why the rich man could talk to the very Abraham. And or else, what about the gully that he spoke about? But then that story can make you think that the bosom of Abraham simply means that the very Lazarus was sitting on the laps of Abraham. Why the person, the rich man, was, like the distance or the gap was not that much. So like somebody being like someone talking to another that was carrying a child on his laps. And the prophet explained that. He said there is Abraham's bosom, that these are ghost words, where ghosts go to. Then there is hell. The hell also is a ghost word. And that hell is where impure hominids go to. That there are tares and there are wheats. There are impure hominids and there are pure hominids. He said that Cain, who was the first biological child, male child of Father Adam in the earth, is actually a tare. And then when they wrote that he said that, that they called him Cain, and that means that they've gotten a male child from God. That prophecy, that's not true. Imagine that kind of a lie. Like if I was actually right. They could just say something and it's 100% a lie. But what he said, the very Lord Adam and the woman Eve, what they said was that they have gotten a baby loan, Loan, baby loan from the abyss. That there is the abyss. And that the Lord Adam of Genesis chapters was terribly defamed. Like, when you say defamation, that thing called defamation. This is one of the techniques, one of the tactics of Lucifer. He does things. He says that's a whole lot he does for some reasons. That's what is called a depletion of momentum. He tried all of that where Lord Adam is, because he outshined everything that used to exist, like the cherubim and seraphim before the physical manifestation of the very Lord Adam, the very man Adam and the female mother and his female mother type. The angels have already been in their heavens worlds before they feel his physical manifestation of Lord Adam and his female mother type. The cherubim and seraphim, they are already in their heavens worlds. So there is a story that is so versatile that you need to understand. And words like the first and the last that Jesus said in Revelation chapters, there's a reason for that. That the first has what it means, and the last has what it means. The very last has what it means. So there is the first begotten. That Jesus said it in the shoes of the Son of God. So that the Son of God is the first person to be given birth to. In other words, God Almighty is the first person to give birth to somebody. That very birth is different from the biological, the kind that happens here. That is called super bio birth. And that you must understand that to understand where you used to be before your biological mother conceived you, or before you were given birth to here. And for reason for words like Words like before, like God talking to Jeremiah said, before you were conceived in your mother's womb, I knew thee. Then words like those whom he foreknew, he predestined. So you understand those words. That's where you used to be before your mother conceived you, or before you were given birth to here. Prophet also said that there you were given birth to spirit being without physical body. And there is a reason you cannot remember anything like that I'm talking about now. Prophet also explained it. And that you are in a physical body that is not yet one with your spirit being. Because that physical body you have now is mortal, while your spirit being is immortal. That is the reason death happens to that physical body, and then the spirit being is still alive. Because your spirit being is immortal. It's an immortal being. So that you have prenatal predestination. Also, you have pre-embryonic existence. Before that stuff called embryo, a little baby body in the womb of your biological mother. Before that, you were already existing as somebody. But there, you have no physical body. You were given birth to spirit being, not physical body. And at that place is the Father's bosom. That is the Father. That's where God Almighty is. So that the mankind race is a race that has what? That has a stellar / constellation order. There is the order of putting to birth that happened, the way they happened. Prophet also spoke about the very Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Most Holy Spirit, as what you should also understand. So that God the Father is the God in his whole size, doing one thing or the other in that whole size. That is God the Father mode of operation. Why God the Son is that very God the Father when if he prosubstantiates from himself, spirit being from spirit being, physical body from physical body. And this does not reduce him. It doesn't make that's where this spirit being prosubstantiated from, or physical body prosubstantiated from, it doesn't mean that person has now become short of what will make that person not to still function. That is one of the almighty ability of this God. Also, one of the almighty abilities of this God. So, but then that one that has prosubstantiated that's the God the Son. Is different from the Son of God. The Son of God was given birth to someday. So the Son of God has a beginning, but God has no beginning. So that the very God the Son, then that has prosubstantiated from the God, also has a difference in size. So that God the Father mode or God the Father is the God in his whole size, in his actual size. That's the mode of operation that God uses, or that God used to hang planets on air. That's why just like you are carrying a ball. You can carry the ball because of your size. An insect cannot carry the ball, cannot carry a ball. You can carry it because your palm, you can see the size of your palm can hold the ball, football, can hold it, and so on. So that the God is bigger than the planets that he hung on air. And not just about hanging the planet, or there are other things like hanging laws of the very planet. Like there is that magnetic force that is there, that they have discovered is there. People that are doubting the Bible, look at the Bible using words like leprosy. I mean, leper being in the similitude, like a leper is in the similitude of that very person who has mortal body. Why? And in terms of like Jesus healed 10 lepers. That was the reason for that lepers that he healed when he was on the earth, being 10. That was the reason. Because the Logos is a 10 dispensation plan. And 10 is a number of completion. And when it comes to numerology, is also signifying completion. While 7 can signify perfection, 10 signifies completion. So why 10 lepers? And why will a leper be in the similitude of the body that is mortal? Or the person in the body, just like Naaman, who was a leper, has to squat 7 times by himself. No, that one is not baptism. It's him squatting. Squat is different from being immersed into water. The person that is to be lowered will be lowered backward. He will be lowered backwardly. And he is not the one to lower himself. He will be lowered down totally into out and brought out. And the one that will do it is the person who is in the position to do so. When Naaman, in his own case, is different. He has to enter into the very river Jordan by himself. He will now not lower himself like this, but rather squat. Very, very important. He will squat one, like totally inside water, then come out again. Squat again, total inside water, come out again. 2, and be counting it. Squat again inside the water, totally come here. 3. Squat again inside the water, totally, and come out. 4. Squat again, total inside water, come out again. That's 5. Squat again inside the water, totally, and then come out again. 6. Squat again inside the water, totally, and come out again. 7. And then he saw that he has been cleansed of the very leprosy. What does that mean? Why was it not a doctrine? Why was it not what another can do, or people that are that are leprous, what they should be doing and be also getting the same results? These are the things that prophet is explaining. He has spoken about that squatting 7 times, that you did it in the Father's bosom to be ready for the God to now transport you, catapult you from that place into the womb of your biological mother, where your body, matter body, that's the very body in the womb, has formed to the point where there are hands already, legs already, fingers already, toes already, and so on. You see, it is not faith. Look at it also, if it actually respected faith at all, like they were telling you that faith has a role to play, place where the God is, and healing, as far as healing is concerned. That the very person even got angry, like left the very person they called a prophet, Elisha, left left angrily. And that it was not somebody who recommended the person. That means it's not like the very man was following the teachings of Elisha. He was Elisha recommended. I mean, someone recommended the person. Recommended Elisha to the person. Then he agreed to come. Then when Elisha told him what to do, he got angry and said, "Jordan, is Jordan even clean? Like, is he clean to cleanse him? That kind of thing. Why he would have even spoken about so river or so is Jordan that he was telling him to go to." But then the person now told him, "Why not give it a trial? Tell me when somebody when someone tells you you should give something a trial if it has to do with faith." In other words, the person only gave that a trial, not that the person had faith, and yet the person got the result. Prophet also, that whole thing that is justified his explanations. That's how you know explanations of a preacher, when it is true or is not. All of that is interlocked well with the things he had explained. That has to do with squatting 7 times, that everybody that is coming here has to do. That's 7 times means 7 times smaller than your actual size. That the actual size of your spirit being is not the size you are in now. That you're actually 7 times smaller. That is in squatting. That you squatted 7 times smaller to be able to wear the mortar, that's the baby size of the body of the man in the fall. Like prophet had a completely different explanation when it comes to what happened, as in what was written in Genesis chapter 3, as what the fall is. Completely different. And when you hear that, you're supposed to scream loud, because it is such an eye-opener. It will make you to truly see that this is what the truth is about what the fall is. And that the God cannot make mistake. The God Almighty cannot make mistake. Just like I said, that this prosubstantiated God, that this very God, the Son, or God in a prosubstantiated state, spirit being from spirit being, physical body from physical body, that he in that state becomes smaller in size, a fraction of the very God in his whole size. Like, you cannot say, "Oh, no, that is God in 10 times smaller, or God in 100 times smaller." You don't have no need. Why? Because the God is bigger than the planets he hung on earth. Imagine that. Now compare that to, let's say, 60 feet tall of any, that's of like what you know that 60 feet is in the earth here. I mean, in terms of height. You see, so no need of making that comparison. But that was what it's like. So then prophet said that one of the reasons God does that is, for instance, when the God needs to see himself inside out, back and front, they all see. You see, so he has his way of doing that, and the way to do that is this. And that the God, amongst his attributes, amongst his virtues, is that he is self-sufficient, self-dependent, self-reliant. He's also showing that he has no beginning. He is being and has no beginning. He is not supposed to lack something that will make him look for that thing that he lacked outside. Else, that him not having a beginning will become questionable. And also, that when he needs to enter inside the planet, he has finished hanging on air, because he needs to also continue works like infrastructural works in the very planet. He will not, or he cannot enter into that planet in his whole size. So he needs to substantiate from himself, spirit being from spirit being, physical body from physical body, and then to be able to enter into the very planet in question, whether it's a terrestrial kind or a celestial kind. Look at it. And these are the reasons for words like the God as he is, God Almighty as he is, to see God in his glory. Words like the very word, for instance, Gloria excelsis Deo. Gloria excelsis Deo. Many didn't understand it. That is Latin. Simply meaning like the glory in the highest. What is the glory in the highest? A certain Psalms, when prophet brought the accurate rendition of that, it came out. That was something else. Like if you should read it, I mean read it, especially the correct rendition. Oh my God, to see you as you are. So as I have seen thee, like so as I have seen thee in the sanctuary, something like that. Prophet also said that, like Psalms 91, he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. That word, the secret place of the Most High, is the very Father's bosom. Abide under the shadow of, shall abide. I mean, he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. That place also was referred to as secret place, because no celestial device can capture, can hack into the activities or actions that take place there. This is something that is very good for the angels that is beneficial to the angels. This teaching, this one, beneficial to the cherubims. I mean, pure hominy cherubim and seraphim, pure hominy angels, because they would have loved to see what that place looked like. That is the abode of the God, the dwelling place of the Most High. And certain words in the Bible that has always suggested, like there is where you used to be. That's where you used to be. There's where there was like that too. Then also referring to like what you received that came from somewhere. Words that suggest even words like heavenly places. Genesis 1 spoke about how that God, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Revelation chapter 12 spoke about heavenly places, heavens, and those that dwell in them. Those that there are people that's the inhabitants of the very different heavens worlds or heavenly or heavens. While Genesis chapter 1, that is the account of creation, spoke about heaven and earth. And in the long run, try to make the very heaven look like it's the sky, is the firmament. And that the host of the very heaven happen to be the likes of the stars, the moon, the sun. Then scientists today will see that there are other planets. So what I was trying to say when I said that those that are doubting the Bible and spoke about the lepers or lepers, like what I mean there is that how you will know that truly the Bible is true. I mean, even though it is in a state that needs to be restituted, needs to be restored, is this, that the body you have now, the physical body you have now, that was what that leper is in the similitudes of, for instance, is a body that can house worms, that can house that can house microscopic organisms. Some people, when they hear worms, they just think of the parasites. It is not just the parasites I'm referring to now. There are places in your body that has, what if you should see maybe with the help of a microscope, you'll be like, what? Yes, sides of your body, like the anus. I mean, certain sides of your body, certain things are there, like as though they are. I mean, they are there to do things that is not like is natural to you. So the leprous in this aspect, in terms of Bible having to use that, to throw lights on something, to help you understand something, is just meaning a physical body. Not only that physical body is in a mortal state, but also a physical body that houses, it hosts certain things that you can refer to as pathogens of this kind of a planet. When the revelation of the earth being round came out, I mean, reflected in the Bible, the scientists were yet to know that the earth, the planet, is round. That is going outside the planet to view the planet or planets and have things to explain concerning them has not yet been what any has done. I mean, the technology has not yet come in the earth here. So this is something that anybody who is actually a wise person can use his tongue and counting his teeth. He will know that truly this is a place where originals have always suffered fake. They have always suffered being imitated. Things that are so good, so beautiful, has always suffered being imitated. It's a little bit different from saying being emulated. The fake copy of something is what someone who looked at the original tried to now do the thing to be his own. But yet he was faking another. That's a little bit different from emulating something. Then also, this is a world where people, because there are generations unto generations. That means people live and get to a certain point where they go to where goes go to. Look at that now. There are also like different languages. That's what's called language barriers. Just like you can see, I'm explaining in a certain language, because if I should speak in my native language, many people will not hear me. The most revealed to me lately that the Igbo tongue, Igbo diction, Igbo accent, the way Igbos in Nigeria, how their accent is like they call things one after another. Come here. Do you want to go? They call things one after another. That the reason Igbo accent is that way is because the person who will teach the messages that will be able to immortalize many expressly will come from there. So the person will that is the accent of the person, the very way, the tongue of the person has to be the kind that you will not be, let's say, like you are from another country, and then listening to him, you should be able to understand everything he's saying. Look at it yourself. Than someone who is from a certain country, that if he's explaining the thing, let's say as I'm speaking English, the way I'm speaking, you have to listen very well to hear me. If you are God Almighty and you are sending somebody who will teach people from different sides of the earth, the time it mattered or it matters the most, the time that is the last dispensation in terms of the dispensation that will retain, that will house, that will accommodate people that has mortal body. And also when certain things are that must happen and so on, how will you do it? In terms of giving somebody church ministry, also is like also talking about teaching ministry, because of the fact that the way to transfigure the part, that is the process of the very transfiguration, the transcends of metamorphosis that will happen, is by what the person is teaching that the people must understand and meditating. You say that that will be enough for you to that is in pluralizing the tongues of men. The certain one must be the kind, you see, not just speeches, but tongues. It must be the kind that will explain things like if whichever language that person will delve into. As an example, the tongue will suggest that he must pronounce things one after another. How many times have you listened to, let's say someone, let's say a British or someone from, like one country or the other, and then the person is speaking English, but then you have to listen well, else you might be you might be like in the habit of telling person, please, can I like repeat what you just said? I didn't quite get what you said. You see that you might be doing that. Then how will someone who mounts the pulpit like this, and you may not even be there to tell him, please, sir, I didn't quite get what you mean or what you said now. Can you repeat it? You're not there to say that. He just explain and explain and explain. You can see common sense will tell you that truly there is a God Almighty who had sent that person and that truly cared about the people, not tasting death. Is what as what salvation is. And he has to explain things that are deep, things that they should listen to and understand and then meditate. And so on, because the earth, people has spreaded and it was in the plan. That is a place that the people must inhabit. You will see that will also be in the plan. That particular place where when they are let's say speaking English, like as there are languages that are generally as like that are likely to dominate in terms of, apart from the people's native language, the kind that a whole lot that you can communicate to a lot of people with. Like we have English, that like we have French. So in Africa also, there are some French speaking countries, like we have English speaking countries in Africa. Whether it is because the people that colonized them were from France, does not matter too much now. I'm just talking about how that there are things that are already known and predestined that they must happen. They are a must happen, and God can see what will happen before it happens. Just like what I said now, if you understand that very well, you will see what Genesis chapter 3, what they wrote in Genesis chapter 3, is making that God that I said now, that he can see what will happen before it happens, look like. What they wrote is making him look like. That the God of the prophets, the God of the seers, the God of the spirit of the prophets, and see what will happen when it has not yet happened. Before the thing happens, he can see it. And can also reveal it, disclose it, talk about it, to show that truly he saw that thing. And then over time, that thing will happen. How will that God be taken unawares? How will that God come to a people? They are not seeing the God. Look at that story. They are not seeing the very God, but they heard his voice. Then they now hid. How can you hide from somebody you have not even someone you only heard the person's voice, but you've not seen? Do you know if where you are going to hide is where he is? I mean, as an example, if it's just voice, no physical sight, that one alone will discourage you thinking to hide yourself, because you just heard a voice. You don't know where to go and hide, because hearing a voice does not mean the voice showed you this is where the person is. Then the people are supposed to have some knowledge about the very person that spoke that they didn't see. And amongst what they're supposed to know concerning the person is that he is all seeing, all knowing, omnipresent. But they made you think that persons in question knows that they knew nothing. There was no, yet they wrote that the very person was the one who named the animals. And that and it was what God I mean, the thing is not good for me. Honestly, like when I use words like the day harasses my certain thing like that, I look for words to even explain that thing I'm talking about. Psychologists are the ones to understand this aspect. There is what, even if that thing is a surprise and it keeps happening to you, there can be a psychological effect of that thing to you. They said that God is like, or the fact they read this way, God is the light in whom is no darkness at all. They also wrote again that in fact, that the God created the good and the evil, has the knowledge of the good and the evil, is like the light, or is the light in whom is no darkness at all. What is evil? What is darkness? They said that the God himself made confession statements you can refer to as confessions. Was like, hey, the man is become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Knowing good. Do you know knowing good and evil is not the same with knowing what is good and what is not good? They are not the same. Knowing good and evil. That's what they wrote there. And also that the God, when he asked, where are you? To cut the long story short, when somebody now spoke out, this was what we realized we've been naked all along. We realized we've been naked all along. Without knowing we were naked. So we heard your voice and had to hide because we realized we've been naked all along. Look at that kind of thing that was sold to you. Then see what the road that God said. They will say, what? Like, who told you that you are naked? Or have you eaten from the tree I said you shouldn't eat from? That is doubtlessly meaning that the God was taken unawares. Even at that time, even when he was talking, he was yet to know what happened. For him to say, who told you? You know that what you are not supposed to know that you are naked, even if you've been naked, you are not supposed to know. They're making you think that it has to do with naivety. That the very Adam, his eminence, and Eve, her grace, that they were naive. 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 Oh God. You know, this is the principal ancestors of the mankind race that I'm talking about here. My dear, there are things I need to explain to you so that you will understand actually what happened. Your sickness is like somebody who was rated so mad that the person is biting his own body. Your situation is likened to that person that was so mad. That means so senseless, so insane that the person bites his own body. That means inflict pain on his own body. Still feel the pain, still crack, and still does it periodically. There is the enemy of the church. They have a hand in that. You should understand who those enemies in question are. Reasons for words like, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and so on, or rulers of the darkness of this world. You need to understand, like in a plain language, who are these people. Revelation chapter spoke about certain beasts with 7 heads. Who are the heads of the beast? Who are the heads of the beast? Revelation chapter spoke about the woman on the beast. A woman on the beast. What is a woman doing on top of the beast? What will a woman be doing on top of the beast? Who is the woman on the beast? For real. Who is that woman on the beast? Who is the woman on the beast today? What does it mean? Also, as that was written in symbolic, in esoteric language. That means it was written waiting for somebody to come to interpret it to you. Who is that woman? Bible has words like somebody is revealing something to somebody, to another, and then the person revealing the thing will be telling that other person, seal it. It is not yet time for the unveiling of that which is sealed. There is the time for the unveiling of that. So what time is this? Jesus must at a time had words like in his mouth, words like, I do speak in parables. So that certain people hearing will not understand. What does all of this mean? When a true life story is made to look like a cock and bull story, it looks like it is unreal. It looks like it is unreal. There are a lot that you need to understand, my dear. Everything that you have seen, like many people preaching that Jesus Christ is the Lord, He is the Lord, and so on, and then are doing certain things a certain way, you know, and preaching what they call born again message a certain way. Meanwhile, the mother harlot church, the very mother harlot church, who is suggesting, who is saying, we are the mother harlot, we are the mother church. So it was out of us that these people pulled from, something like that. They themselves are not preaching the very born again message the way that people are preaching it. Look at that. So those people doing all of those things were written that it will happen. It was written that it was written in the Bible. I mean, Jesus Christ spoke about it. Not that many will come in his name preaching or saying he is the Christ. It doesn't have to written plainly, like written in such that you now see that he said, that people will preach that I, Jesus Christ, I am the Son of God. They wrote it as preach that saying I am the Christ, or I am the Son of God. However, it doesn't mean that the people in question will be the one to be saying they are the very Jesus, because some people do see that do think that's what it means. So there was a time when they say that when there are names like Jesus of, they call a place, like in Lagos State, there's a place referred to as Oyimbo. Then there's this time that you hear words like Jesus of Oyumbo. There's this place, I think in the southeast called Naze, something like that. There was a time you hear things like Jesus of Naze. If you look at this now, Naze look like it's Nazareth. Oyumbo looks like Oyubo. But the point is that the people were thinking that what Jesus' premise meant in what was written in Matthew 24 was that people at a time will come claiming they are the very Jesus. That was not what he meant. What he meant was that time will come when, because this whole thing would have gone universal, a lot of people will see or judge the church to be lucrative, to be a lucrative business, and they will delve into it. They will delve into church ministry because they judged it a lucrative business. And they will deceive many. How can you be preaching that Jesus is the Christ? And that was a message of deception. Why would you deceive many with the message Jesus is the Christ? It's to show you that it is not just about Jesus Christ being the Christ, but there are all things that needed to be explained to the entire global community of pure hominids about the God Almighty, about what salvation is, the path that leads to life expressly. What Jesus meant, that was written in John chapter 8, verse either 52 or so, where he said, those that kept my saying shall not taste of death, something like that. But this is what he meant. If it was not what he actually said, it will not be followed by the people saying, now we know that you are. Then they said a certain thing. I said, the prophets died. Abraham died. That's, like the people that they felt they served God. They did what God said they should do. That they died. How come you are now saying that those that kept your sayings will not die? It means he said it. He said those that kept his sayings will not taste of death. Now, but they didn't understand the thing. The people didn't understand the thing. That is exactly it is like a soup that has all those ingredients. That is referred to me by that I refer to as the details of what it means to be. What I say to be? Huh? Expressly immortalized is already what will not. That's what needs to be explained to by you. Like that's what salvation is. What that rebirth, born again in the full, what it is. So we are born before, spirit being without physical body. This is a rebirth. Your physical, that physical manifestation is a rebirth. But then this is supposed to be a means, that is you wearing mortal body. It's not supposed to. That you're not yet fully manifested. You are still becoming. That's the reason for that metamorphosis. So there is the Egypt, which is when your physical body is 100% mortal. Then there is the Gilgal, that is when you have left Egypt and entered into the church, where you have where messages are now coming that will give you what is called mindset reprogramming. He begins to do a foundational work. It is needed first. So before you begin to be able to eat like a baby that at first takes milk, because the baby cannot chew strong meat that time. But then the teeth that is needed for the very chewing of strong food will begin to grow gradually. You see, that's what it's like. I mean, what giggle is like. Then why, by the time you have been able to grow that teeth and then begin to handle like meat, like stronger food, that is when you've now, that mindset reprogramming stuff has happened to a reasonable extent that you can now digest certain revelations that can hurt the way. You can digest them. So the first time that happened, the first time you digested revelations, messages that were able to, like being like you digested it to the point where it crystallized. That means to the full, you digested it fully, and then Zoe cells were hatched. That is the launch into Bethel. That's when you have come into Bethel. It means now you can digest certain revelations gradually. That can hatch Zoe cells. That's when it's like when your journey has begun. That's like when your race has started. So how will you justify this? Look at words like, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Even though it is not in 100% accuracy. But what? Look at that. Look at this. Except you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life in you. Prophet still explained that. But it is not, like just like what they wrote there. Look at how they wrote what they wrote. Then compare it to what he said during the Last Supper. They wrote that he said, do this in remembrance of me. Yet what he said there was now like the practicalization of what he said there was now what he did in the very Last Supper. In the house of somebody that was a leper. The person where the Last Supper took place, the person was also a leper that he healed. That was called Simon. Why a leper? That's the reason that he healed. The place where they did that was not a downstairs. It was not a downstairs. There was a reason for it. He was in between 12 people, 6 by the left, 6 by the right. There was a reason. It has to be that way. Where he told someone, that which you have to do so quickly. There was a reason for it. To the turning of wine into blood, there was a reason for it. As he had earlier turned water into wine. But my point is that why will he finish and say to them, you do this in remembrance of me? When he had told somebody, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. When he had also told the people that started living, like the people that seemed to be following, that started unfollowing him. And he said what? Except you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life in you. He was talking to people who to them, they were alive. They breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. He said to them, they have no life in them. Today, they are telling people who are yet to have the very life to give their life to Christ. The people that are yet to receive the very Christ that is supposed to be the life as they preach to people, or to eat the very flesh of his and blood of his, which they are explaining in another way now, that it is to keep them in unison. As Jesus said in a certain place, that if you eat that, if you eat my flesh and drink my blood, then am I in you and you in me. All of that is nonsensical. Prophet is explaining what the Eucharist is on a nutshell, what you should understand, the one you should understand when it comes to this putting on immortality. Look at the coinage, putting on. How do you put on something? If you don't first of all see that which you put on as like a garment, the garment is supposed to be different from you. In other words, prophet said that the physical body is different from you, that the you is the spirit being. So that physical body is a garment, and that physical body is why was like, know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. So that the Holy Spirit is the very you. I mean, your spirit being is holy. That's my point. Your spirit being is a Holy Spirit. That means a pure hominy spirit being. So that the physical body is your temple, the container of the spirit being. It is called a temple as a holy container, like a holy house. A holy house. So this is actually what, in fact, these things, as I'm going about it this way, it's also help you to see why there is the need to explain them. Why there is that's why there is the public address system today in the earth. Now you see that truly there is what to do, not just for not for party stuff, not for show stuff. No one said that something is just for ceremonial, whatever. That's not what the church is all about. When you talk about where, if God should desire worship, if God should worship, like in terms of praises and so on, is it not best where the people has the physical body that is perfect, the physical body that has no inclinations, that towards that has the tendencies that is towards things that are immoral. There are heaven's worlds. There are angels that are in the heavens. There are different heavens as I'm talking with you now. You think they don't do those things? I mean, they don't have God, they don't worship. About the cherubim myself, you think they don't worship? Did I explain to the people that the very Eden is a heaven's world? Yet in Genesis chapters, they spoke about cherub. There's a certain two cherubim that were spoken to guard the very place. And yet, in your Bible, like in Ezekiel, you see that a certain person was referred to as the anointed cherub that covered it. And also they wrote that the word said that the person has been in Eden, and they call that the garden of God. Then in Revelation chapters, they wrote that the very tree of life is still intact in the middle of the paradise of God, tree of life. Then these coinages was not enough to make the people claiming that God gave them church ministry to know that the very Eden is not in this earth. It's not a terrestrial planet. I mean, it's not in a terrestrial. It's not in any way terrestrial. That is a heaven's world. Look at it yourself. I am the one. I am the one. Is the only voice. Is the very another voice today in the earth that is saying that Lord Adam of Genesis chapters is the Son of God. That he was giving birth to spirit being without physical body. It was me that is saying that. And what the fall has nothing to do with what they wrote there. Thing they wrote. That was what the fall is. It has to do with the strip off of immortality from the very physical body that God Almighty toppled himself. You see that I refer to that as physical body, not the person. Physical bodies, male and female physical bodies. That has to be what? That has to be, I mean, that the cell system of that very physical body has to be altered. So there's such thing as the setting of an altar, and then the alteration of the very finished work. That is that very altar setting, which is to set some. It's just like when you talk about trigger of a thing. That's the trigger point of certain things. Trigger, when it is pulled, it commands an action. So like the building of the trigger is like the setting of the altar. While the very alteration is the pulling of the trigger. You see? So the prophet said, for the very mankind Adam, his eminence, and the woman Eve, for them to be able to that's for the man to get the woman pregnant. and the woman to also get pregnant. That's for that to become possible. But there is need for the alteration of the cell system of the physical body that got coupled, according to the logos of the God of creation. Like it was pre-planned by God that to be that way. He was one that made available everything that is needed for that to happen, for that to be possible. And at the tree of the knowledge of God, at the tree of the that they actually ate from 13 trees in total. But the first 12 trees has to do with the setting of the altar. When the 13th tree was the one that was highlighted as a tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Prophet said that there is no such thing in any heaven's world. That God Almighty, his creative faculties is so holy, so immaculate, so pure, that he, God, will not know. He, God, cannot conceptualize on anything that is evil. He can't. It is anti his nature. He can't. It's not possible. So everything that you also cite in the earth here, in this earth, that is evil, did not come from him. So there are products of reproduce. There is such as the matrix and her exhibits. This thing also called evolution. Evolution also will help you to understand that the likes of cockroaches, rodents, mosquitoes, you see, how that a place that does not have any at all. There is how things will go. That's how, like the height of, there's a way the place will become dirty. Before you know it, these things will come. These things will come. Because there's earth-borne disease-causing organisms. There is water-borne disease-causing organisms. There is air-borne disease-causing organisms. In other words, the earth is a matrix. The water is a matrix. The air is a matrix. And when it comes to creation, this very kind of creation, this level, this height of creation, like both the moon, anywhere you can go and you are fine. What I mean by you're fine, your eye can see the thing normally. You don't need help to see that. That is telling that is under the natural. It is not in it's not in the supernatural. There is the supernatural. The supernatural, you need help to see it. Once you're wearing physical body that is mortal. When Peter, James, and John, when they saw the very Moses and Elijah, you remember that they wrote that Jesus Christ is transfigured. That he transfigured. And then talked with them. That was what they wrote. So when Jesus transfigured, what actually was what happened? What was it that happened? Then the very Moses and Elijah that appeared. Where did Elijah come from? The Elijah, they said that he was carried spirit, soul, and body. Where was he carried to? What was it that Elisha saw that he called the chariot of Israel? He referred to as the chariot of Israel. Where was it that Enoch went to also? They said, for he was not, for God took him. He was not, for God took him. Now, these explanations of this prophet is binding the things written in the book referred to as the book of the law, Moses, and of the prophets, including the revelations. That is what was referred to as the Old as the New Testament. So the prophet explained a whole lot to you. Then where the Bible referred to use was like the New Testament wine, the new wine, and the new wine skin. The new wine and the new wine skin. It was trying to say the blood, liquid blood in your body now, and the new one, the one that is ageless, the one that you need. If nature of yours becomes supplanted, there is the supplantation of the mortal nature. There is the replacement that can happen to you expressly. That when it has happened, then you will have physical body that is Zoe celled. So you need to understand the fall, to understand also the return to glory. You need to understand the fall, to understand the return to glory. Jesus was trying to help you in that. Turned water into wine, then turned wine into blood. So that at least you can see that blood that you have now can be turned into wine and then to water. As an example. But that what he was working on at that time was his mystery divine nature. Telling you that Adam of Genesis chapter is eminence. In the fall, there were metamorphoses, negative transcends of metamorphoses that happened gradually, apart from the one that happened instantly, which is the very word, the strip off of immortality. And that he shrank in size when that happened. So that was what happened, that they narrated that way. So that reportage is false. And seriously, the works that also the illiteracy of a people affected, apart from what Lucifer and cohorts also did. Prophet has gone to the point where he's helping you to see again that Jesus always told you that you should read the book of Daniel. And he said that whoever that reads of this certain thing that was referred to as the abomination that caused desolation, that the person should try to understand it. So there is the woman on the beast. There is that which was referred. All those esoteric things written in esoteric language, you should understand them to be able to understand who the mother harlot is, who the whore is, what was written that is a must happen. Coinages like, and they worship the dragon. It gave the beast power, and they worship the beast. Look at that. And they worship the dragon. I gave the beast power, and they worship the beast. Which dragon? Which beast? There is the dragon of Revelation chapter 12. There is the beast of Revelation chapter 13. There is the dragon. There is the beast of Revelation chapter 12, the woman and the dragon. Prophet is even telling you that the woman and the dragon are supposed to be the woman and the serpent. To help you know that you should revisit Genesis 3, the woman and the serpent. But then the woman and the dragon, when you look at it and take it as it was, you will only think of Virgin Mary. And then when you talk of Virgin Mary, then the dragon. And then the baby was carried and ran to a place to Egypt. You see, when you look at the word Virgin Mary and baby Jesus, so that there was this person, this dragon that was ready to devour the child as soon as the child was given birth to. Making also the very child in question to be a prey to the beast that was waiting to devour the child. So there is the original of this stuff. What is the very woman, Eve, and the serpent? Prophet said that the serpent of Genesis 3 is a seraph, is one of the heads of the beast. And why the seventh head of the beast is a dragon. And that dragon is Lucifer of Isaiah 14, 12-14. Is Lucifer of Ezekiel 28. It was the person referred to as the anointed cherub. And then prophet has explained this. Know that these are impure hominid kinds. But the physical manifestation of the soul that God gave birth to manifested them. Like a light helps you to see things in its true nature. So words like that he's been good until a certain time, until iniquity be found in him. In fact, Ezekiel at the road tried to make it look like he was as a result of his beauty. It's a result of his brightness and his beauty that he became full of himself. He became proud, like pride is set in. Jesus is he said, countered it and said, when he said to the people, you are like your father, the devil. Then he said again, he has been a liar from the beginning and the father of it. That. Then the prophet is uniting that with that. So the person he referred as when he spoke to a people, said, you are like your father, the devil. The very word Satan, the devil, has its origin. So there is the person that earned that name. And there was also what made him earn that name. He was a slanderer, a malicious accuser, who said a whole pointing to a certain person. That was the very Lord Adam of Genesis chapters that he was speaking against. And that person is Lucifer. That person is a celeb without a celestial home, as I'm talking now. Just like Nebuchadnezzar at a point left the palace and entered the bush. is also how that person at a point left the heavens world he was a citizen in and hit the street. And after some time, there's people like him, as there are, like I said, there are impure hominids among the cherubim, among the seraphim, and among the angels. So they were also living gradually, until as I'm talking now, there's not one impure hominid cherub or seraph or angel in the heavens world of these cherubim and seraphim. They belong to the same heavens world. And then the angels, they have 4 different heavens world, and the 5th one is a limbo that separated that very 4 different heavens world and that of the cherubim and seraphim. Prophet said that the heavens world of the cherubim and seraphim happened to be in a pyramid shape, while that of the angels happened to be in rectangular shape or rectangle shape, while that of mankind is in square shape. That's what the Revelation chapters means in using the word 4 square. And the city layeth 4 square. So all of these things are things that has to be broken down, but not to be negatively affected in interpreting it. And that is what this prophet has been doing. So I want to give you the correct rendition of a certain place in the Bible that say that this thing that this person is doing today will be done in the earth. So you can also see how the real interpretation, the accurate rendition of the very prophecies of Micah. Micah chapter 4 from verse 1 to 5. Okay, that's how you see how they wrote what they wrote and the real truth. That's the very prophecy in its 100% accuracy. So I'll give you that now. Micah chapter 4 from verse 1 to 5. Micah chapter 4, they wrote it this way. But in the last days, Micah chapter 4 from verse 1 now. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. Verse 2. And many nations shall come and say, Come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Verse 3. And he shall judge among many people, and rebuke strong nations afar off, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Verse 4. But they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid, for the mouth of the Lord of hosts had spoken it. Verse 5. For all people will walk every one in the name of his God, and we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever. Correct rendition. Micah chapter 4 verse 1. They wrote it this way. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. Correct rendition. But towards the time of the end of this terrestrial, it shall come to pass that the true church of the Son of God shall gradually increase, gaining serious momentum and the rise to ascendancy, until it hits the pinnacle of every societal gathering in real time, topping everything called religion or religious sects of this world, and climax to the top of the tops and to global superpower and dominance, and so many pure hominids from different sides of the earth shall flow unto it. Verse 2, they wrote it this way. And many nations shall come and say, Come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Correct rendition. And many and many nationalities shall come to her, Unbelievably so. The original truth, the restituted gospel, the true logos of the God of creation is what will drive this traffic internationally, comma, not dubious or falsified miracles, comma, or dot, 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 please. And many in many countries shall turn to certain messenger, and they shall say unanimously, come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the true church of the Son of the Most High God, the church of the firstborn, and let us learn from his chosen one, the prophet of this dispensation. Let him teach us of the ways of his God, what the true salvation message is, and we shall walk in his path. For the scepter shall go forth of Zion, an ecclesiastical rulership from the son of the David of the mankind race, before the end of the terrestrial comes. Verse 3, they wrote it this way. And he shall judge among many people, and rebuke strong nations afar off. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. The correct rendition. And he shall judge among many people, and rebuke bully nations afar off. And these shall passate for the transition into the peace era, from times of war into a time of global peace. This is due to the universal impact of this unique message, of his unique message. His influence shall discourage nuclear deals and the manufacturing of nuclear weapons and co, and shall greatly encourage global peace and tranquility. Verse 4, they wrote it this way. But they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid, for the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken it. The correct rendition. But they shall sit every one, in bracket, of his followers. But they shall sit every one of his followers under his tutelage, under his victuals, in bracket, spiritual nourishments, learning at his feet, like a baby is fed by his biological mom. And no terrorists or jihadists can make them afraid. For the mouthpiece of the Lord of hosts has spoken this. That is the prophet now saying, I have said what God said I should say. That's what that one looks like. So okay. Then in bracket, this also pointed to the unusual way he ran his global ministry without being at the mercy of pastors. You see, this also pointed to the unusual way he ran his global ministry without being at the mercy of pastors. Verse 5, they wrote this way. For all people will walk, everyone, in the name of his God, and we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever. Correct rendition. For the human rights laws will be highly respected. The freedom of choice, the freedom of religion will not be violated in any way. Different people with their different beliefs. But the mother harlot church with their daughter harlots will become dwarfed and mushroom, while the true church will rise to superpower level and dominance. This happened to be one of those places in the Bible that certain things were said. The people that are explaining these things that they're explaining today in the earth cannot interlock with. Israel, as I'm talking to the geographical location today called Israel, are still waiting. Majority of them are still waiting for the Messiah. For which reason? These are, I mean, when let's just like prophet spoke about or explained to us what Judaism means. Why would Judaism be explained differently from Christianity? Look at it. And then among the tribes of the very Israel that are supposed to be 12, you don't find anything like Simeonism. You don't find anything like Reubenism. You don't find anything like Josephism. But there is Judaism. When Judah is supposed to be, in fact, the fourth child of Jacob, from the wife that was referred to as Leah, that means the one he didn't prefer, but was the first that was given to him. But it was written like he was giving it, he was giving that wife cunningly, and it was looking like it was what he deserved, because they called him the Jacob, misinterpreted the name, the meaning of Jacob in a misinterpreted format. Sounds like it is that Jacob means deceiver, swindler, 419er. You see? Then what they wrote that he did to his brother, that was supposed to be twin brother, but came out first, was now justifying that. Then it was me. It was me. Who told you? No. In all that they explained as what the meaning of Jacob is, that the only one they got is the word supplanter. And that there is something that needs to be supplanted. And that what that Jacob was doing, what he was doing, like he didn't say to Esau, eat my porridge, give me your birthright. But rather, what he said was, give me the birthright you stole from me. That the matter, you cannot exactly understand it except you understand some of this I'm explaining. This is the spiritual aspect. Now, so it is the person, the similitude of the spirit that does so well in this kind. So that very supplanter, the very Jacob, why it was him, like in fact, the road that God said that Jacob I loved, Esau I hated. Prophet also explained this. God is never partial. He is never partial. That I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy. You know those things that look like a favoritism. That God can do things by mere favoritism and partiality. That it is not so. Partiality is not justice. But that Esau is a tare, T-A-R-E. That there are tares and there are the wheats, W-H-E-A-T-S, tares, wheats. Another word for it, for tare, impure hominid. While for wheat, pure hominid. So there are pure hominids and there are impure hominids. So there was a story that God started telling through the life, or through the lives of certain people, starting from, let's say, Abraham. Because there is the Abraham of the mankind race. There is the person that is the father of the very many, that is the very mankind race. Imagine if you were the very person that God told, I have made you father of many. That will make you to just immediately understand that what God meant is that you will later become somebody who is the father of a nation, or the topmost father of a nation, if that is what you will think immediately. If not, that you will think that you will become biological father of many people. Even the very Abraham did not understand the whole thing. And that was exemplified in one God said, oh, this Isaac you love so much, bring him to me. Then he took the very Isaac with what he meant to use to kill the very Isaac, and went to a mountain called Moriah. Even Isaac was the one carrying his own thing. There's the very where he will lay on for that killing. And his own biological father used blindfolded him, used some to blindfold him, and bring out a kitchen knife. Imagine that kind of sight. Imagine how that affected the mother, the biological mother of that child. Because that Abraham was not the one that carried that child in her womb. The person that carried that child in her womb felt much more. Went through travails that Abraham didn't go through. But Abraham took that and having reasons to go and slaughter somebody, and said that God said. That is what that's supposed to. He got it wrong. If God said you bring the child to me, what God said is, do not let this child taste death. Let the child be expressly immortalized. In other words, let him become a living sacrifice. Living sacrifice has nothing to do with killing the person. It simply means that the person, you are able to take the person through transcends of metamorphosis, from Gilgal to Bethel, Bethel to Jericho, Jericho to Jordan and across. Through your teaching, Abraham is an angel of a church age, a particular church age. But he is the third angel of the church. Many didn't know this. Where did the message that has to do with the angels of church ages, where did they go to? Who are the 7 angels of the church? Why did Jesus of Nazareth in Revelation, in the island of Patmos, brought about that kind of a vision to John, where he is in the middle of 7 golden lampstands, And also by his right palm, 7 stars. Not now him in the middle of 12 people. 6 here, 6 there. This one is in the midst of 7. What does that mean? What are the message that's supposed to make you know that there are dispensations? There is the first, the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and we are in the 7th dispensation. But there is the 8th that is coming. And that 8th, what will begin it is heaven coming home. That is the transition into the 8th dispensation. The millennial reign. Are you not supposed to know? Was it not supposed to be explained to you, like, I mean, when you say like in blue and white? Plainly. Where did the message go? Now look at what the prophet is. Like what he just read to you now. It is in Micah chapter 4, verse 1 to 5. There is that thing that got somebody's attention who is seriously interested in running the earth. It's his own. And the person didn't hide, the person in your Bible spoke to Jesus Christ's preeminence. And at a point said this, the earth is his. And that he do give the earth, allocate different sides of the earth to the people that do his bidding. Why would that person not have a hand in what Rome did and say that it has gone Catholic, it has gone universal? How would that person not have a hand in that? What does it mean? A woman on the beast. What does it mean? The beast gave somebody his back. What does it mean? It means that the very beast supported that church. That woman is a church. The Mother Harlot Church. So the very beast supported it. In fact, if you look at like I said before now, I said that the map of Italy. Look at the map of Italy and read Revelation chapter 13. There is the beast of Revelation chapter 12. And then there is the beast of Revelation chapter 13. When you read Revelation chapter 13, it sounded this way. And I stand upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up from the sea. Let me reveal one secret to you. And I stand upon the sand of the sea. Do you know one of the names that they refer to? That's the very place, the very room, the church, that's, the religio-political, where it occupied. One of the names for it is the Holy See. The Holy See. Even though the sea, they don't spell it as S-E-A. They spell it as S-E-E. The Holy See. In a certain chapter in Revelation, certain place in Revelation chapters, there is this thing about a city. Let me see how I can make you understand this, please, better. Okay. Like the correct rendition I gave you, you can compare it with Daniel chapter 2, verse 34, where they wrote, "Thou sawest that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, that were of iron and clay, and broke them to pieces. Thou sawest that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet." Upon his feet. Upon his feet. Which place is that feet? The image has gold, silver, bronze, and and stone mixed with clay. Then these 4, I mentioned, are 4 metals, precious metals, even though 3 seems to be the precious, not the last one. These 4 also represented 4 successive world powers at a time, which are Babylon, that's the gold; Medes and Persia, that is the silver; Greece, that is the bronze; and Rome, that is the stone mixed with clay. So look at that. So that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet. So the message hit the religio-political. That's the one that was at the feet, but it's the same image. So the prophet has said before, he said Babylon is a system masquerading in secrecy, shrouding in secrecy, masquerading in secrecy, and deliberate cover up. a system of satanic inventions, a system of Lucifer's inventions. The earth is a land in dispute. There is this person that is claiming that the earth is his. It is not a situation. It's not like the person is dragging it with the God of creation. So don't make mistakes. But then there's this plan of this whole thing, and there's what you should understand. There is where the battle line was drawn. You should understand the reason for that, the woman and the dragon. You understand the story of Genesis chapter 3, the real story. You should understand these things about heaven's world, these things about the cherubim, seraphim, angels, these things about this. I mean, what the prophet has been explaining, these things. Where are and the difference between like these creatures and the likes of demons, and also how that there is the abyss of Revelation chapter 9. And that is a matrix. So that the spirits of every tear was shot out from the abyss. These are amazing revelations that are supposed to help you so much to understand certain things that has been a mystery. The thing has been a mystery for millennia upon millennia. It has remained a mystery. It gave prophets tough time, even after receiving the revelations to interpret it. It remains like it was like, who can interpret this? What I'm telling you. So there are things that you should understand very well for you to also appreciate these messages that are coming from this person. So also, if you compare also this to Daniel chapter 2 verse 35, then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together and become like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. How can that be Rome? How can Rome be the one that hit Rome? Rome was at the very feet of that image. How can the stone cut out with our hands that hit the very feet of the image? And the Daniel chapters, or this very chapter, spoke about how that the image crumbled. The image crumbled. And why will that image be in the image of man? And why will it also be like a degenerate system? Gold to silver, silver to bronze, bronze to stone. Then the inferior overthrew the superior. Why? Why that system? Why that parable? These are the things I'm explaining to you. It is now as it is. It is like David and Goliath. It is like the man in the earth, the seed of the woman with mortal body, the one giving birth to by a woman. And somebody that is, like raging, but is in a physical body that is supernatural. And has been sending also his agents into the earth. Impure hominid angel turned humans. That means angels can come into the earth. Has been fighting the church. The person has been fighting the church to, if possible, even wipe human beings away. That thing that happened during the time of Noah, it was still it was the person sending angels that went his side. That means impure hominid angels. So amongst what they were exactly pursuing to achieve at that time was to wipe out human beings. That's the mankind race, in fact. Why? Because certain prophecy, certain divination of the very Lord Adam, it started looking like it was correct, which was that the reason for the fall was for procreation to become possible. And God has to show that it didn't take him unawares, which was the reason. Not just that somebody should build an ark, but the God has to be the original builder of the ark in the form of a puzzle as a tree. So the God has to now, oh my goodness, in revealing things which started coming out from the mouth of the Lord Adam of Genesis chapters. That there's a tree. Everything that is needed to couple the very ark that will save that situation is made available in. And the side of the earth where that is, who can believe that the ark of Noah, the very gopher tree, the very gopher that is that was the tree that supplied everything that was needed for the coupling of that ark, that tree was found in Nigeria. Who can believe that? That the ark of Noah was coupled beside River Niger. Who can believe that? And that the ark of Noah took off from River Niger. And that the ark of Noah landed, rested upon the mountain of Ararat, the mountain of olives, rested upon the mountain of transfiguration. And that where the very ark took off from and where it landed or it rested has what it means. It has its significance, as that was for the reason, for also a certain reason, what you can call adumbration. There is such thing as the principle of adumbration. When the God of creation is trying to secure what happened in the now, secure a future, what should happen in a future, what will happen tomorrow. That's what will happen in a future, in the now. When he's using what is happening now to secure what is to happen in the future. Like the main original, the very main thing, that one happening in the now is in the similitudes of. So there are similitudes and there are adumbrations when it comes to the God of the spirit of the prophets, who nothing take unawares. Prophet has explained this or these things. Even the very bird that were released from the window of the very ark, that has to go first. The first one that went and didn't come back. The second one that went and came back with nothing. And the third one that went and came back with olive leaf. That defined the three ministries. Three different ministries of the very Elijahs of the mankind race. That are also three persons. Which, as I'm talking now, many are yet to know that when you hear Elijah, that there are three Elijahs of the mankind race. And that the first Elijah is that Elijah you know. The second Elijah is John the Baptist. And that the third Elijah is the very prophet Obinna, Jude, Alexander. Prophet revealed that what is called Judophobia. That's what Lucifer has caught of late. Because these revelations that has continued coming this way has gotten to the point where he cannot neglect it anymore. We can see that this person is telling him of the past, the kind of thing that nobody will be in the mortal body in the earth here, and start talking about, and you don't call it divination. That is, you ask, how did the person get these informations? Or is it that there are like angels who come, that's come looking like humans, that is like talking with this person? How? Because he did not, the very Lucifer I'm talking about, did not believe in the God of creation. In case you didn't know, and think he's a rebel, like somebody who rebelled against God's sovereignty, like he knew that God is there and rebelled against the God. Nobody can do so. Nobody can like tell God, let's fight, knowing who the God is. I'm telling you the truth. Those stories like like the allegory of Job, where they told you that this person scouting about, like God asked the person, hey, where are you coming from and where are you going to? And the person has to like, where do you think I was like scouting about? Or what do you think I was scouting about for? If not looking for who to devour? Like what audacity? Like what audacity? Like what an audacious person to like what a fearless person to talk to God that way. And God will be like, have you seen my servant Job? God is looking for servants, people that will be serving him. And how to serve the God is to make sure you give him food. That's amongst what to do. And the food involves, animals, to kill one animal or the other. Like they told you that Noah killed a certain animal, and the very God, perceived the aroma of that animal. He was so nourished that he has to change what he has said before, and said things like, I will not destroy the earth again. Using water, using rain. Look at it yourself. The God in question is supposed to be almighty. The God in question is supposed to be celestial. The God in question is supposed to be not mortal. What is called appetite for food? Does it not matter the kind of physical body you have when it comes to appetite for food? That is the appetite and the kind of food you have appetite for. Look at it yourself. Is it everything that your dog eats? Is it everything that your chicken eats? Is it everything that the birds eat? How can a celestial being eat terrestrial things? This is just being fair. So all those things that they wrote, that God, especially like when they wrote concerning what Elijah of Tishbe did, and that he called upon God like, oh God, like I've set your food for you. Like don't fall my hand, that kind of thing. Like don't fall my hand. Please come, I've set your food. So that these people will believe that I am Elijah. I am your sent one. And these other people are not. Then God has to come and eat the food using fire, naked flame, lick the water, lick the blood. My dear, you need to understand what actually happened there. Just like they wrote that Noah sacrificed an animal, and God, perceiving the aroma, was so pleased. You need to understand what happened there. That's my point. The Noah truly killed yes, he killed an animal. There was a reason for that. And why it was called a sacrifice, I repeat, why it was called a sacrifice in the aspect of Noah was because all that were coming out from the ark of Noah were in twos and in sevens. In twos. Imagine the animal, the species he removed one from. It simply means they became 13. They became 13. So at the time, it is like you don't have to, like the wild animals will not even start tearing that is those ones that you call prey, the domestic animals, the ones that the wild animals tear. Because if it should happen immediately, they will go extinct. Look at it with your brain. I mean, with your common sense. When they didn't do it inside the ark, will they come out and just start doing it? What was it that made them not do it inside the ark for a whole year? It means inside that ark, there are things that needed to be explained to you that were not explained to you. In terms of how that ark was, what the ark was made of, what the inside of the ark looked like. Just like you read or they wrote that certain people ate manna in the wilderness, and then Billy, like how to put it, hi. They said it like it doesn't really matter, like it's not a big deal. That their clothes did not tear, even their footwears did not wear out for 40 years. Meanwhile, the the inside of that story were not told you. Why it was so? Why it was so was not told you, my dear. I have the details. Just like you read about one Samson, the person, what he was demonstrating was looking like, is this real? Somebody that chains can shatter while on his hands. Like what we call handcuffs here today. You know how handcuffs are built? It means trying to even remove it. You can enjoy yourself. Leg cuffs, how it was built. In those days, even times they use was like the iron fist of this ruler or that ruler, because they believe that like that time, there were more of barbarians. People can just in trying to take over a territory, start fighting and killing people that didn't do them anything, for instance. So they have what happens is they have chains that are serious, bold, big. Now this person will be like as though they have overcame him, please. And then chained his legs, chained his hands. The chain will even run across his neck, run, and then also maybe it's tied to a cart, like a horse-driven kind of cart. Then they'll be dragging him to where he's supposed to be taken to. All of a sudden, this person, like something came on him or came over him, and that was it. You see those things shattering, and this person will deal with them one after another. He never fight. He fights with no weapons. When he now used the ass and the jawbone of an ass, it was recognized. It was like, oh, today he fought with the jawbone of an ass. Normally he fights without anything. Like he deals with somebody who is coming with an arrow, with a sword, with those things they fight with. If he should collect any and use it, before you know it, he's dropped it by the corner. Like what he was demonstrating is not ordinary. That's what it was supernatural. What he was demonstrating, what was his secret? Why was it at the time At a certain point, this person I'm talking about became who a people has to discuss with somebody to go to him and ask him what his secret was. Is this natural? Is this normal? Where will you go to somebody wearing human body that is like flesh? It is flesh. The person was not an immaculate conception. The dad got his mom pregnant. He was giving birth to the way you were giving birth to. He was only told, in fact, the messenger said to the mom, this is what you must avoid from the time, especially that this conception has taken place. Also, when the baby boy, when the child is giving birth to, the child must not take alcohol. Oh, oh, oh. The child must not also, razor, clipper, or anything that shaves hair should not touch his hair, and so on. This person is so person. These are the things he will do. Now, this is the person that word, he will begin to save his people. This is the one that fits. Not Jesus of Nazareth, his feminist. Jesus of Nazareth, what rather should have fit him would have been bail. He will bail, he will propitiate for, he will ransom, he will be the substitute for mankind. You see? So my point is this: that very Samson Manoah, his God is who? Why then will Peter be arrested, thrown into a place, and he cannot do anything? He couldn't do anything, but an archangel had to come and intervene for that Peter to come out. You're supposed to understand these things. You're supposed to understand why I am telling you. Do I have to mention more? Daniel was cast into the lion's den. Nothing happened to the very Daniel. 3 people were cast into Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into a fiery furnace. Their physical bodies did not burn. Where is the God that did it for them? Where is the God that did it for them? Do you know what happened to some of these apostles? Like I mentioned, Apostle Peter. But also there's this John of the island of Patmos who narrowly escaped martyrdom. Narrowly. And so on. You need to understand these things, my dear. I am telling you the truth. You need to understand these things. It is not child's play. It is not these things these people are doing out there was written that it will happen. They will get the results they got. That is to say, they will deceive many, M-A-N-Y, and they shall deceive many, M-A-N-Y. If they didn't succeed in deceiving many, then the words of Jesus of Nazareth, who said it, would have been a lie. He said, and shall deceive many. He said it while standing upon the mountain of Olives. But there is this thing, or there is this aspect of this whole story that was seriously sealed. Seriously. Because that was one of the reasons for that, like that killing of babies. The killing of babies was sponsored by somewhere, from a certain point, a certain place. They were not trying to kill the baby because of no reason. There was a reason. That was what was said, that they were trying to prevent. So that it is best to kill the very person while the person was still a baby. And that you can link with Genesis chapters, even chapter 3. What has to do with start bruising of somebody or bruising of some serpent's head, and they didn't add and until it be crushed. Prophet was one who also told you that the full sentence is, and he shall bruise your head. That is like the serpent's head until it be crushed. When you talk about seraphim, cherubim, like that where it says these are creatures with supernatural body. How can you bruise a physical body that is supernatural? It cannot be bruised. A physical body, Prophet also explained that Lucifer had a dream. Then he takes you to Isaiah 14, 12 to 14. Isaiah did so well in explaining that. He said, and he said, how are thou fallen from heaven, oh Lucifer, son of the morning, something like that. For thou hast said in thy heart. In his heart, he said that this is a celestial citizen. This is somebody that is in a place where Anybody that is there lacks nothing. It is not the kind of system you run in this earth, in this terrestrial kind of a world. It's where the person lacks nothing. The person is so fine. The person cannot suffer any sickness. Everything is there for the person. What does that mean? The person could desire that kind of a thing. Tear is a tear. A tear is a tear. Look at the prayer prophet prayed today. He said, actually, to worship a God out of the fear of burning in the lake of fire, out of the fear of being cast into a lake of fire, or like being cast into hell. He said that is not even worship at all. And at the same time, that is a violation of a certain right, human right, that is talking terrestrial. But then, certain law that has to do with every free moral agent. That law, that's, how do I put it? That's right. I think it's better. That right belongs to every free moral agent. That's the reason the person is called free moral agent. Another proof. Jesus sometimes is talking. He said, hey, this and that is before you. Choose this so that you will. You see? So the people's choices are respected. The God of creation is a respecter of your choices. Anything that has to do with disrespecting your choices and forcing another on you is bondage. That's a life of bondage. A free moral agent is that person who has the right of free will. That is his free will agency. He can choose what he wants. And that's the reason Lord Adam, for instance, has to explain the logos. He has to explain it in such a way, knowing that the angels in their different heavens worlds are listening. He has gotten their attention from a different heavens world where he was, because he has gone into his home office and turned on the windows of heaven. This thing called the windows of heaven is also something you should understand. There are words like the keys of the kingdom. There is the word, the key of David, because there is the David of the mankind race. There is the word, the keys of the kingdom, because there are special press buttons with B. These are the things that this person were also explaining. And the person also said to the very people that were listening to him, many of you are listening to me, but you're not physically present where I am. Then I'm talking about heaven's world. He was telling them, stop addressing me, stop referring to me as one of the creatures, because then he has outclassed everything or every creature that was reigning, if I should put that way. As then the angels, it was not so long that they discovered the cherubim, and that's that there are other creatures in certain other in another heaven's world, that is superior to them, that has different anatomy. Because when you talk about this creature thing, there are different anatomies. Like angels, they have 2 wings. The cherubim and seraphim, they have 6 wings. 6 wings. Even though a certain Bible, a certain prophet wrote that the cherubim has 4 wings and seraphim 6. That prophet did not write it well. The cherubim and seraphim belong to the same heavens world. A seraph is a feminine version of a cherub, so they have 6 wings. And then the angels have feathered skin, but the cherubim and seraphim, they have embroidered skin. Then the cherubim stand like birds stand, while the cherubim and seraphim stands like the dinosaur stands. It is the reason for words like dragon of the times of this Bible language. That's this passage. You see, beside, there are also people that the God Almighty himself